Today's episode is sponsored by Future State Media, experts in off-Amazon traffic for Amazon sellers. Future State Media will build you a custom-made website to deliver sales for you on Amazon. Built to grab traffic from search engines and social media, your site can be used as a secret weapon for launching products on Amazon or just to stabilize your Amazon sales. It means you can also build an email list on autopilot. Go to futurestatemedia.com for your free guide to Google SEO for Amazon sellers today. Ladles and jelly spoons, boys, girls, anyone else listening who is an Amazon seller or wants to be, this is Amazing FBA, and this is your host, Michael Veazey. Today, we have a guest, Rob Hornstein of eGrow.io, to talk about product research. eGrow.io is an Amazon product research tool that makes it easier for sellers to identify and track new products, which, although it's a topic we often talk about, talks about because it is the number one block for any client that comes to me for coaching. So it's a really important topic. So Rob, first of all, warm welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael.
Pleasure. And where are you coming to us from today?
I'm based out of Washington State here in the United States.
Excellent. Is that Mount Rainier behind you or something in the picture?
Almost. Yeah. I'm actually a little bit south of the Seattle area, but yeah, I wish I was out there hiking today.
Yeah, it sounds like it's supposed to be a beautiful area. My co-host in the sort of sister podcast to this, the e-commerce leader, is based in Seattle, so I'm learning gradually about the geography around that. It sounds a pretty amazing place. But anyway, to business. Let's get the listeners able to go out hiking whilst their business earns them money, because the first thing is you've got to get the right product. So product research. I did a quick sort of recap of all the interviews I do for everybody whoever comes to me for mentoring. I give them an interview, and I got like 60, 70 individual interviews I went through the other day, and by far and above the biggest problem is product research. What do I sell? So tell us, what's your basic research process?
Yeah, so I can get into that here a little bit, Michael. And, I can talk about product research and certain criteria that I use for my individual product research. And I think that's all fine and well. In addition to that, I think today I'd also like to talk about a method I use for product tracking and keyword tracking, because that almost allows me to refine my research. So once I've conducted some initial research and maybe have gotten some products in mind and I've started to look in a little bit more depth, then I can come back and refine my searches. So I'll get into a little bit about my product research technique, and then hopefully we can dive in a little bit more into that, because I think that's going to be really valuable for your listeners today. So I think, just to start out, I guess, as many of your listeners might, I oftentimes start out with just a quick database search for my product research. And I understand that everyone's different and everyone has their own metrics and criteria that they like to use. I'll lay out kind of a basic idea of certain products that I look for, and then we can go from there. So just quickly, kind of, looking at eGrow's database research tool in particular, there's a bunch of metrics and categories that you can choose from. So I oftentimes start out by either doing a search in all departments or looking into specific departments. So lately, I've really enjoyed looking into sports and exercise, patio, lawn, and garden, even office products, things like that. And then initially, while I have the option, I don't oftentimes narrow down into subcategories right off the bat, because I like to leave it a little bit broad and try to gather more data, as will soon become apparent when I go into the product tracking aspect of my research. But in terms of price, I oftentimes start out with a search between maybe $20 and $60. $20 is the bare minimum that I anticipate selling on Amazon, just because anything lower than that, shipping costs and profit margin really can become an issue. And then, like I said, I go up to about $60 as my upper range. As my business grows and as I gain more experience and more knowledge, I think I'll be a bit more comfortable diving into products with a bit of a higher price range. And then something else that I look into is the average reviews. When I find a product that I'm potentially interested in sourcing and then listing, when I'm doing my research, I look for products that have less than 4 stars as an average review in the database research tool, because this tells me that, maybe there's some issue or some problem with the product that really might be something that I can improve on. So while I'm bringing a similar product to market, there's room for me to make some improvement or change some minor detail that will provide more benefit to the customer. Another thing that I like to see when I'm looking at prospective products are estimated sales. I think that's an important thing to take a look at. Obviously, they're estimated, so I'm not always getting an exact number, but I want to be able to kind of have a ballpark understanding of how this product might be selling and how much inventory I might need to have on hand. So generally, for my research purposes, I often like to see at least 300 sales per month, or on average about 10 per day. And translating that to estimated revenue, you can just do the simple math. 300 sales times $20 is at least $6,000 a month in estimated revenue. But obviously, that's a bare minimum, and I tend to like to see at least double that when I'm doing product research. There's some other criteria that sometimes I like to include. I like to add sometimes weight restrictions for my products, especially when I was first starting out, ensuring that the products weigh less than 3 pounds, really to cut down on those shipping costs when sourcing the product. Sometimes I would go up to 5 pounds, but that was really my hard limit. And then there's other categories that you can filter by as well, such as the BSR. I hear sometimes people say, oh, the BSR should be less than 5,000 for a specific category. But, I think that sometimes that's a bit of a misnomer, because it really can depend on, first of all, the type of category and the size of the category when looking at the BSR. So while I think it's helpful, I really do think it's important to consider what category you're researching when taking a look at the BSR. And then lastly, something that's unique to eGrow's database tool that I often use is something called the listing quality score. The listing quality score is a metric from 0 to 10, 0 meaning a very poor listing, and 10 meaning an excellent listing. And it just gives you kind of an idea or a snapshot of how high quality of a listing you're taking a look at. So maybe you found a really good product, there's some poor reviews, so you think maybe there's an opportunity to improve the product and bring some new or additional value to the customers. And then maybe I see that the listing quality score is only a 6 out of 10. Well, this tells me that there's something wrong with this listing, whether it's not enough high quality images or an issue with the title or potentially some keywords. It gives me an idea that there's something about this listing that if I were to produce a listing with the same or a similar product, that there's improvements that I could make to really, capture more sales. So those are just some of the metrics that I like to use. Obviously, using them all together as a combination can really limit the results when I'm initially doing research. So oftentimes, if I pick a category, I'm really only using 1 or 2 of those metrics. I'm getting some product ideas and then adding more and more metrics to refine my search. And I think that'll become apparent why when we go into the product and the rank tracking aspect of this research process.
Great. Well, just a couple of things to reflect. I mean, everybody loves hard criteria. It's the number one thing that everybody wants from me. Like, there's some magic in it because nobody else is listening. Unfortunately, everyone else in the world is using the same criteria and pretty much the same kinds of tools. I mean, eGrow maybe is not so popular in the east coast of China, but Jungle Scout is, for example. So how do you then refine down what could end up with a database of hundreds of thousands of potential products? You've already mentioned tracking, so how do you use that to refine it down?
Yeah, absolutely. So generally how my process works is I put in these criteria or some of these criteria that I've described, and I get a list of products that I think, okay, maybe I'm interested in sourcing and selling these products, whether that's just a few or sometimes more than 10. It really depends on the category. And then from there, I simply add those products to my product tracker because, well, the database research tool provides a great snapshot in time of the products and how they're performing and their sales and everything like that. The product tracker is really where I take data and do the meat of my research, because not only will the product tracker allow me to look at products and how they're performing at a specific point in time, but they'll collect data and allow me to look at that over a longer period of time. So when I do product research and I identify a product and add it to the product tracker, then as the weeks and months go on, I'm able to see the trends and the changes and how that product's performed in different environments. A great example is recently here during the coronavirus pandemic, here in the United States at least, for the health and fitness market, we saw a huge spike in sales of at-home exercise equipment in late March and early April. And coincidentally, as I was doing some product research, I had added a couple products to my product tracker at that time. And I thought, wow, these are excellent products. They weren't selling very well in January. And at this point, they're just off the charts with sales. Maybe this is a great product, great niche to get into. And after having that product in my product tracker for 6 weeks or so, I realized that was kind of just a trend and just a phase. Everyone not being able to go to their gyms required them to purchase this at-home workout equipment. And now that things are starting to open back up, that market has gone down substantially. The same goes for holidays and different seasonal items. So the aspect of the product tracker that I really like is being able to see the full picture. Sometimes individual points in time can be misleading, but if you're able to look at the full picture over several weeks or even several months, you really have a better understanding and more confidence in any sort of product that you're trying to source and then list.
It does make sense. That is one of the major problems with those sort of things based on BSR, right? It's a snapshot. Mm-hmm. I think it changes every 15 minutes or so, doesn't it? Okay, great. So what it says to me is that you basically have to line a product up quite early and track it for a while. I mean, how long do you track a product before you start getting itchy trigger finger and wanting to order a product online and to sell?
Yeah, that's always the question is
Mm-hmm.
How long do I really need to take a look at this product before I list it? And, it really, I would say, depends person by person. Just as I kind of gave out some of my metrics and criteria that I look for when I'm doing research, I'm sure there's a lot of listeners out there that use totally different metrics. So it really comes down to your personal preference and ultimately your risk tolerance. So if you have a bit of capital saved up and you're able to invest in a new product without too much risk, I'd say go for it. Maybe just a couple weeks of data would be good enough to get an idea. But if this is your first product, or maybe you're just getting into Amazon FBA and you don't have a whole lot of capital to invest, you might actually want to take a look at products for a longer period of time, just to get that extra level of confidence that what you're getting into has a higher chance of actually being successful.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, the longer period of time you've got in the background, how can I put it, in the past, to extrapolate forwards into the future, then the more likely it is to keep going on the same trend. Although there's always something crazy like COVID-19 that can come along, but that's probably not a frequent thing. So first question then is, how long can you track this stuff? You mentioned eGrow, so we also mentioned the tool. How long can you track this stuff for? Is it like years and years? Is there a sort of time limit?
Yeah, so at this point, there is no time limit on the amount of time that you can track products for. So eGrow was founded in October 2017, and so some of our initial users are able to continue tracking products that they added to their product tracker right at the beginning. And I should say too that this product tracker, it really is great, because not only can I track products that I'm interested in, but if someone else is looking at that same product in their product tracker, if they've been tracking it for, say, the last 6 months, as soon as I add that product to my product tracker, I'm able to take a look at that data as well. So it's almost like a sense of community in the fact that once a product has been added to eGrow's database, it's available for all users. So as more and more users join the platform, there's really much more widely available data.
Excellent. Oh, that's interesting. One of those network effects. So presumably, if people have been coming in since October 2017, you've got a good number of people. What sort of number of people have you got in the network, roughly, of users?
Yeah, so we have actually several thousand users now who are using eGrow as a research tool all across the world, in 12 different markets. And we're adding new users every week. People are really jumping on board with using eGrow as a product and a keyword research tool. And it's growing, and particularly in some of the new international markets for FBA, such as Australia and the UAE. We've seen a huge growth in our user base lately.
Great. And what other tools do you use to deal with your product research once you've dealt with the the search criteria up front and then refining it through your product tracking? Is there anything else you use, or is that enough?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's kind of two ways that you can go once you've identified products within your product tracker. So if you've added products to the tracker and you don't like the data that you're seeing, or you're realizing that these aren't products that you think would be good to sell on Amazon, you can then take that knowledge and that data that you've identified from your product tracker and use that to inform the metrics that you then go back and put into the database. So it's almost like a feedback loop in the sense that I'm learning about what products are doing well and what products are not, and I start to identify trends and patterns that I can further use in product research. The alternative to that is, if I have identified that these products I've had in my product tracker are something that I'd like to move forward with, then I oftentimes go to the rank tracker. So what I will do is I will just do a quick search in the reverse ASIN tool on eGrow and get the associated keywords with the particular product. And then I take those keywords and add them to the rank tracker. So when I go to the rank tracker, I can start a new project. And that simply means uploading a specific item or listing that I'm interested in, and then attaching those associated keywords. And I can see how the product is performing for those keywords, both at that moment in time as well as over a longer period of time. So in the sense, it's kind of like the product tracker that you get past historical data, and then it just becomes more and more solid as time goes along. So that's a great way to kind of identify what keywords might be useful for a specific product or niche.
Yeah, so you're sort of refining the picture by associating keywords to specific products, I guess, rather than just keyword driven. Okay,
Yes.
and a couple of questions then. First of all, emerging markets. You mentioned Australia and UAE and Netherlands is coming on stream now. I've noticed recently in European Amazon, although not really had any experience of it. Are you finding that people are actually making any serious money on those, or are they still just a sort of side hustle, little play thing at the moment?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think there is serious money to be made in both the Australia and UAE markets. Those are the two newer ones we're focusing on right now. And, I think part of the reason that is currently still the case is that, especially particularly in the UAE market, there's not a lot of big sellers and big brands dominating the Amazon landscape. So in a lot of categories and particularly in a lot of subcategories, there are small individual sellers that have listings ranking, number 1, number 2, number 3, and that's really supporting their business. So it's almost like the big brands in those regions haven't, identified Amazon as a valid channel for sales, and at least at this point, it's creating a lot of opportunity for small and newer sellers to get into the market and really get a foothold before those big brands come in.
Okay, and give me a flavor of how big that is. I mean, okay, getting a part of a market before it grows is a smart, basic business move, but just a reality check. If you're number one for some big category like baby or, whatever, beauty, household products, anything like that, what sort of daily or monthly unit sales are you looking at? Have you got some kind of metric you can give us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's a great, aspect of the product tracker within eGrow, because not only, can you research things for the US market, but you can actually research things for all 12 of the markets that we serve. So, that's something that you can get a good idea of actually before you go ahead and get into the market. So, I'm in my product tracker, here right now. I can, simply switch over to the UAE market and get an idea of total sales. So I have, let's see, it looks like baby sippy cups. It's ranked number 73 in the UAE market for babies in the baby market in the UAE. and the revenue is 31,000 AED per month. So let me just do a quick conversion
Yeah,
to US
live
dollars.
US live research on this podcast. I
Yeah,
like it.
and this is
Yeah.
just how easy it is. So that's a revenue of about $9,000 per month. So
Okay.
while not huge, it's significant, and this product appears to be growing quite substantially. That's the other thing is the room for growth and the rate at which these markets are accelerating is what's really exciting for our users.
Very interesting. I mean, I do know that Amazon Australia, there was a bit of a reality check on that. One of the members of the masterminds that I run in London, who's got sort of Australian heritage. I mean, he's got a bit of everything heritage, but he was saying that he was sort of ranked number one for some major keyword in Australia, and it would have been something that would give you thousands of dollars of sales a day in the US. And he was saying, it was sort of 2 units a day. So Australia is a bit of a different fish because it's basically not far off the size of a China or a USA, but obviously a fraction of the population and very spread across the vast different distances across the two coasts, whereas of course UAE is a much more compact place and famously very high income per capita. So very interesting to see that. I mean, and as you say, if it's a market worth a few tens of thousands of dollars, if you can really dominate it and then ride that wave as it grows, very interesting. Okay. Final things. I was just, first of all, just quickly checking on if you got any sort of background as a seller. Obviously, you're talking quite knowledgeable about the whole business. I guess that, working for eGrow has given you a lot of insight there anyway. Have you done any e-commerce selling yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually got started in e-commerce over 8 months ago. Initially selling on eBay. I was using more of a dropship business model to go ahead and kind of get my feet wet in the business. And kind of slowly as that business has grown and actually done really well, I've started to transition to Amazon. So then I first went to fulfilled by merchant selling on Amazon, and now I'm slowly kind of starting to get my feet wet in the FBA market. So that's kind of the approach I've taken, and working with eGrow and kind of getting the inside knowledge and experience with working with a company like this has really accelerated my learning and really kind of made me understand the business as a whole. So yeah, I think this is a great way to get involved and really just kind of understand the business before jumping in with both feet.
Yeah, it's great. And at least it's good that you're working in the markets that you're serving as well, because it's important to have that sort of reality check built into your work, so that as a person in the software industry, at least you understand the needs of Amazon sellers. Always reassuring. So eGrow, there's obviously not as new a kid on the block as I thought. Actually, it's been around for a while, which is always reassuring. If you want to check it out, you can go through amazingfba.com/eGrow, where we will be offering some deals. Have you got any special deals for the listeners?
Yeah,
User
absolutely.
question.
So hopefully, when this podcast is launched, this offer will still be live. But currently we have a discount of 50% off for our plans on the website. So that's something that I would highly encourage the listeners to take advantage of, because that will allow them to get the full experience and all of the features of eGrow at a discounted price. And then, they'll have that locked in. So if they like the product and want to continue using the tool, they'll really be able to get a lot of value for the price.
Excellent. Well, I know we've got a video walkthrough coming up, which obviously if you're listening on the podcast won't be much use to you, but if you go over to amazingfba.com/egrow, EGROW, we will put the link there. And I'd suggest that if you're in any way interested in the tool, a quick video walkthrough will tell you a lot about whether it's going to be useful for you. But in the meantime, Rob, many thanks for coming on the show to share your product research.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Michael.